I will no longer be silent. I'd like to say what needs to be said. And I think the biggest thing, I'm very frustrated with the outcome of this election and the entire process. And less about, ooh, boo-hoo, Trump won. I'm just frustrated how we got here. And the reason I'm frustrated is because this was so avoidable. This was so avoidable. And
what someone said was it's predictable and preventable.
Yes, for a number of reasons. One, Trump is very beatable. And don't let these results skew that fact.
Yeah, he's unpopular.
He is deeply unpopular with women. There's a large percentage of people that voted for him that do not like him.
The double haters. Did you see that stat?
Yeah, where they don't like Joe, but they dislike.
No,
Trump,
in this case, they dislike both candidates. They dislike both Donald
Kamala
Trump and Kamala.
Or more.
Yeah. They chose Trump something like 67-22.
Yep, he is old. He's 78, getting older. And by the way, if you don't agree with this, all the evidence you had and need was in 2020, where the Democrats nominated objectively a plain vanilla, moderate, I'm going to use the word competent politician, and you can take that with a grain of salt, but relatively competent, and he ran the table. Like, Trump is very beatable, and there's a reason Nikki Haley and DeSantis hung around in that primary for as long as they did, because they weren't sure that Trump could actually pull it off if the Dems nominated, if Biden's coherent, right?
Or if the Democrats had their act together. And put forward
a real case.
A reasonable ticket.
Yep. So he's very beatable. The second thing is that the Dems, and you made this point earlier, the Dems have a pretty solid bench. And I'm not talking about the usual suspects from 2020. I'm talking about Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro. I'd throw Wes Moore in there.
Yes.
Folks would throw Whitmer in there.
Yes.
So folks would throw Buttigieg and even Newsom in there. I don't know if they have as good of a shot to win, but
they're talented.
There is at least 3, if not more, candidates from the Democratic Party that would have, frankly, wiped the floor with Trump. I think would have won.
Or at least, so what I said was Joe Biden is an historic loss. Kamala Harris is a dignified loss. Your best people is a chance to win.
Yes.
And so there's no guarantee that Whitmer Shapiro ticket would have won, but it would have given you a better chance.
You would have done better.
Yeah. Especially if, by the way, they had the energy and legitimacy of having won a primary.
Yes.
Because you know what, that stuff actually matters. You get people who are into it.
For sure.
Their opponents.
Their lists transfer over. There's energy. There's endorsements, et cetera, et cetera. The third thing is that in this process, the Dems lost whatever they had left of the moral high ground. And this is what drives me probably the most nuts, where they told us that Biden was sharp as a tack. They were covering that up for at least a year, probably longer. They refused to have a primary. And I don't mean like he's the incumbent. We don't, that's what we're proactively kicking Dean and other candidates, Marianne, off ballots by state. I mean,
they canceled primaries.
North Carolina, they're getting calls from the White House saying, don't put them on, even though the requirement is just that you had to have media coverage to be a candidate. You don't, and then you shiv Dean and others for running and saying you're against the country, you're a fascist because you're going to help Trump win, you're going to weaken Biden.
Dean
Nonsense
could have chilled in
arguments.
Congress for decades,
forever,
but instead he's out.
Yep. And then
thank you again, Dean.
Thank you, Dean. We then crown. I'm using that word intentionally. A deeply unpopular vice president, deeply unpopular, who last time that candidate ran for national office, the presidential level, was embarrassed. Did not get to voting. We literally have a track record of what this looks like at scale, and it's not good. So we crowned this person, and you combine that with general distrust in media and the media backing a lot of these decisions. You combine that with, I'm going to call it, these Trump court cases, then some of them are the civil cases, I think, have more legs, but some of the one, like the one in New York, is objectively a version of nonsense. It's a thing that they're vilifying him. It's very clearly politically motivated at worst. At best, it's awful. And
it's an aggressive application.
Yes. So you combine all this, so the Dems, whatever, out here saying, democracy is on the line, while subverting democracy is, there goes your moral high ground. There you go. And in politics, when a strength becomes a weakness, it's catastrophic too. So if the Democrats' message in 2020 was restore the soul of America, Joe, like back to basics, we're the party to restore sanity, and then you do all the things that are insane and saying all the things, you're doing the things that you're accusing Trump of doing, you lose your moral high ground.
Joe Biden failed the George Washington test. He failed the character test.
Yes.
And we all are saddled with a return of Trump as a result. And everyone should be very, very ticked off at the folks who protected him and pretended everything was going to be all right.
Correct.
And Dean Phillips, not to make too much of this, but Dean Phillips sacrificed his career to try and start that conversation. And people still wouldn't have it.
Nope.
It was insanity.
And then to top it off, number 4, we didn't have a message or a great messenger, but the message here was, you had a candidate that this was driving me nuts. Like they were, from a comms perspective, if you're in politics, you work in communications, you work in comms, criminal malpractice offenses here. We did not have answers for the easiest of layups. Like, hey, what is your biggest weakness? What have you learned over the past 4 years? What will you do differently than Joe Biden? And then in addition, we didn't have answers to what's your plan on the border? What's your plan on the economy? These were, you can watch Kamala's CNN town hall and you don't get answers to any of these. And it is brutal. Combine that with, what was the closing argument in this campaign?
Not Trump.
Trump's a fascist. I'm not exaggerating. Closing message, Kamala Harris said, my closing message, that's her title of speech, Trump is a fascist. Combine that with not going on Rogan, not embracing a lot of these podcasts, some of these bigger audiences. Malpractice.
It's like Trump is a fascist, and I will be conceding to him within 72 hours.
And then,
like that. That's like the.
Who are you trying to convince with that, by the way? Like, who, even if it's true, do you think they're going to believe the Democratic Party in saying that, right? Like, who's listening to that? It's like, oh, you know what? Kamala says he's a fascist, probably right. Like, that to me is an insane sort of comm strategy. And lastly,
well, to defend that a little bit, it was former Trump officials who said it.
There were plenty of people that have said this about him. I'm not saying it's not.
They decided to
lean in, right?
Yeah, to make that the message,
right. And then to top it off, like at the end of the day, the Dems got stumped. We got absolutely smoked. Like, we did not gain any county over Joe Biden. We did not outperform Joe Biden in any county by more than a couple percentage points.
You say we like you're a Dem, bro.
We being the party I'm talking about right now. You're right. The Democrats did not outperform, like, not one.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. Please do hit like and subscribe and hit that bell if you want to be notified every time a new episode drops. Thank you.